Your eyes give you away in this honky tonk masquerade. You should have known I knew all along.
Joe Ely is an American country singer, songwriter, and guitarist. He was an important part of the Austin prog country scene of the 70s and the 80s. He is also one of the Flatlanders, as in Jimmy Dale and the Flatlanders. He has released 20 solo albums between 1977 for the earliest and 2020 for the most recent. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is the second solo album by Joe Ely, and my first encounter with him, although I have heard the Flatlanders before. So apparently this is outlaw country or country rock. It doesn't feel like the country rock of, say, the Eagles, as in it feels much more country in that sense. So, as is fairly well known amongst the people who watch me fairly often, hi! I'm not a great fan of country, and the reasons that I normally throw up are three. They are nasal singing, an overuse of pedal steel slide guitar, and overly emotional, manipulative songs. Okay, so however, I do have a kind of growing theory about complaints. So there's a thing called the theory of constraints. This is Dan's theory of complaints, which is that sometimes when we don't like things, and this is kind of applies to me, but it applies to things that I hear from other people as well, we find it hard to describe things because possibly what we don't like is that something's missing, but we find it hard to put our finger on that. And so we tend to latch onto other things as being the things that we complain about. So the great example that I've got here is I spent a lot of my actual working life dealing with talking about video games. And there are some games where there are complaints that the games are too linear. Okay. However, there are some games that have been hugely successful that are incredibly linear, and nobody complains about them being linear. And I'm convinced that actually the problem that people are complaining about isn't that the game's linear, it's that there's not enough points at particular points. But it's so the choice thing is a lack. And so what they tend to do is turn that into something that they think is something that's there that they're complaining about. So I'm wondering how much it is true that I have succumbed to the same kind of thing, and whether my dislike of country is, or dislike of some, possibly most, I don't know, country, is to do with some lacking elements rather than to do with these three elements. In particular, the one that I'm going to kind of examine at this point is this thing about overuse of pedal steel slide guitar, because on this album it's absolutely drenched in it, but I don't hate it. So why do I complain about it in other songs? And maybe it's that in some things I hear that and I kind of think, oh, here we go, this is going to be country. And so I immediately kind of shut down my senses to, my appreciation to things. And it was tempting to do that with this. I knew it was going to be country before I loaded it up. But when I listened to it, I found there were some songs that were okay, but the okay ones were the more country ones. And there were some songs that were less country, and I tended to like them more. So I think in this examination that I've got, there's something about the actual style of some country songs that I don't like. And I think it's the slow dum, dum, dum songs that I really struggle with. Because fast country songs, honky tonk songs, songs with the word honky tonk in often I find are good. Things that are more bluegrassy, even if they're kind of slow, if they're more folky, things that start to lean towards Cajun, things that got bits of blues in it. There's all sorts of things around country that kind of go, there's almost like I'm whittling it down to a core of country that I don't like, but I'm paring away at these outsides and thinking, actually, there's stuff here that I do like within country. So this is, it's got several styles, as I said, there's full-on country, there's several that I'd say rock and roll here, There's a few things in between. There is some, what I would say, Cajun influence here, partly because the sounds of Cajun, or quite a bit of Cajun, are similar in some Western country, but the thing that really hits it here is the accordion. There's some good accordion work in here. I like a nice accordion in the right kind of setting, especially when it feels like Southern American. There's a waltz. There's a great waltz, the West Texas waltz, which kind of feels more folky, again, kind of Americana rather than straight up country. And it's quite well done. It's well played. Even the very country ones, that are the kind of the complete drenching in this pedal steel guitar is actually, I'm not, finding it that objectionable. I'm just finding them a bit dull in comparison to some of the other ones. The country songs, actually, I would say there's also occasionally a bit of a folk feel. It says leaning towards. So when I say folk, my strong references for folk are English and Celtic. So that's Irish and Scottish folk rather than American folk. And it has more of that kind of Celtic folk feel. There's very slightly. There's quite a lot in common actually between some Celtic folk and some country music and Americana. Anyway, let's keep moving on. So the more country songs are still my least favourite songs on here. Fingernails is good. It's a kind of rockabilly rock and roll. The first track, Cornbread Moon, kind of lit me up a bit as it starts as a kind of fastish country. Then it turns into rockabilly. Then it turns into jazz. And then it winds back through those different styles and keeps changing time signature and therefore feel at the same time. And it is quite well done. My favourite, I might have said this already, is West Texas Waltz. It's really nicely written. It's kind of got this traditional folky waltz thing, but it's really tongue-in-cheek. So I looked it up in my source of information for almost everything, which is Wikipedia, and it was written by Butch Hancock, so not by Joe Ely. Butch Hancock is another of the Flatlanders. So he's a bandmate of Joe Ely's. And actually, looking down the list of who wrote what, he also wrote a track, Boxcars. Quite like Boxcars. Jericho, quite like that track as well. So actually, what I think are the three best tracks on the album are probably the ones that are written by Butch Hancock. It ends with a classic Hank Williams song, Honky Tonking, which I quite like. Hank Williams isn't somebody that I'm, hugely kind of going, yeah, Hank Williams. But this song's quite a good song, so yeah, I like that. So it has more for me than some country. I'm still less keen on the more countrified tracks, like Because of the Wind and the title track, Honky Tonk Masquerade. But mostly I enjoyed it, and I think it's maybe country is slowly chipping away at me. Maybe I'm slowly chipping away at country, but we're getting there. So that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think, so please do leave a comment. That's it from me for now.
I met a fine lady banker, and I'd sure like to thank her for the credit she gave me, made me shout. She changed my whole attitude, and to show her my gratitude, I decided I'd just ask her out. Yeah, I thought I'd